It's not hyper powerful, but it is unique. None of the features are dead. You'll have cool things to do with all of them. It fulfills the fantasy satisfyingly. It gets a great bonus spell list. I think this is a home run of a Druid option.
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the Druid subclass, Circle of Spores.
And like there's spores everywhere, and then they're sticky and get all over everything and are mushroomy.
Gross.
Yeah. This option's low-key awesome. I think this is an underrated little Druid gem. It's a little bit gross, but it's really unique, and I think it brings a lot to the table for the Druid class in some really unique ways. And if I were to recommend someone that wanted to try like a different strain of Druid, it would probably be this.
Is it gross or just earthy?
Both. There's a thing called Halo of Spores. I don't think you can get real just earthy in Halo of Spores or, fungal infestation. There's not a lot of earth tones to a fungal infestation, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Yeah. We start with 2 second level features. So most modern design subclasses for full casters and for half casters get spells, they get bonus spells, they auto prepare. This is the case for Circle of Spores. So they get circle spells. At 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th level, you get spells that are automatically prepared for you. You they don't count against the number total you can prepare as a druid. So if you are level 2, you have a +3 wisdom modifier, you get 5. You also get the bonus spell thrown in there, or the bonus 2 or 3, whatever they are down the road. Out the gate, you get Chill Touch for free. That's just an extra cantrip you get. It's not a great cantrip, but sure, whatever. Have Chill Touch. It's cute. You get at 3rd level Blindness, Deafness, and Gentle Repose, and I don't have anything kind to say about Gentle Repose, but Blindness, Deafness is neat. It's a decent little save or die, right?
Yeah, I'm not even that down on Chill Touch. If you're getting it for free,
Yeah, sure, why not? Now, 5th level is where things get very interesting because they get Gaseous Form, which is okay, sure, cool little mobility thing. I like that. This is a new mobility option for druids, and I'm always into that kind of thing. But more importantly, they get Animate Dead, which is a very out of left field for druids to get, and it really fits the flavor of they're not the typical zombie. They're more of a corpse inhabited by fungus that you control is the new flavor take on it, which I love. That's a really great, different aesthetic for Zombie Apocalypse 4, getting your fun, monstrous undead in a unique fashion. Big fan of that. 7th level, you get Blight and Confusion. Neither are great. Blight's fine. Confusion is not great, but it's still castable. Like, you'll find situations to have fun with it.
Potentially fun. And another one that I really appreciate getting for free.
Yes, absolutely. It's not a spell I would ever want to prepare, but if you'll have a moment, be like, oh, hold on, this is kind of awesome. Confusion here. It's really silly. It's funny. It gets hectic. You can use it out of combat in some niche scenarios sometimes.
It kind of fits flavorfully if you're thinking about spores and like fungal infecting somebody's mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We end on Cloudkill and Contagion. Contagion is uncastable garbage. I think it's one of the few 1 out of 5s I can readily point to and be like, yeah, no, this is trash. Cloudkill is fine. Cloudkill's giant area effect damage, kill some people, throw it down. Again, it fits like a fitting top end to the subclass fantasy, right? Of giant cloud of spores, gas attack some people, commit some war crimes, do your thing, Those are the circle spells.
I like how, a lot of these spells, they do the same thing they do for any other class, but here you can, it just, the whole subclass imposes its own flavor on the spell.
Yes. I do think that subclasses are made a lot better when the spell selections feel like they have a new life, like a new angle on it. I feel for some reason that undead are less evil if they're just refluffed as, infested corpses. For some reason, that's not as evil to me as, siphoning a soul and creating a dark entity instead of it. It's, different kind of dark. This one's more, mushroom farming kind of deal. Maybe you're just a hermit in the woods and you need some extra hands. You go, well, there's some corpses lying around and they got mushrooms in them, so I'll just animate the mushrooms. There you go. It doesn't feel as harmful anymore. I like it a lot.
Sure, yeah.
We move on to the, oh, sorry, I said there was only two. There's three second level features. So we get Halo Spores next. Starting at second level, you are surrounded by invisible necrotic spores that are harmless until you unleash them on a creature nearby. When a creature you can see moves into a space within 10 feet of you or starts its turn there, you can use your reaction to deal a d4 necrotic damage to that creature, unless it makes a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. The necrotic damage increases to a d6 at 6th level, a d8 at 10th level, and a d10 at 14th level. Love that it scales. Big fan of things that are scaling. Doesn't scale well, but it scales, and that's not nothing.
And it's used for a reaction.
Yes. Quick rules clarifications. Things have to move into a space within 10 feet of you for you to be able to do this. So if something stands still and doesn't move around within near you, you cannot use your reaction to Halo of Spores it. It has to be moving. But if it does like move while within 5 feet of you, you can then use Halo of Spores on it. So can't use it on things that are not moving. Well, even if they're in range, you can move them on the moment. Anything within range is moving within range, you know, that kind of stuff. Free reactions are great. This is an easy one to use. It encourages you to be in the middle of things. I'm a fan. Why not? The real
doesn't encourage you much with D4.
D4 every round isn't bad though. You know,
No,
especially at levels
if you can use it every round.
Yeah, I mean there's some kiting backward stuff you might want to consider doing with this,
Yeah.
right? You might want to play like that mid-range druid where you're doing some spell casting and things move in range, you damage them, then you back it up and keep it going. It's tricky to get that playstyle locked down, but the real actual payoff for being in melee range is symbiotic entity. So also at second level, you get the ability to channel your magic into your spores. As an action, you can expend a use of your wild shape to awaken those spores rather than transforming into a beast form, and you gain 4 temporary hit points for each level you have in this class. While this feature is active, you gain the following benefits. When you deal your Halo of Spores damage, roll the damage die a second time and add it to the total. Your melee weapon attacks deal a bonus d6 necrotic damage to any target they hit. These benefits last 10 minutes until you lose all these temporary hit points or until you use your wild shape again.
That's not bad. Yeah.
It is fickle. 8 temp HP goes down very fast early on, so you really don't want to be taking hits quite yet. Around 10th level, when you got 40 of them to play with, that's when you're fine starting to take some blows with spores. But I do really think you want to try and keep these hit points up as much as possible so you can get those bonus attacks, bonus damage in as much as you want. We just touched on 2-weapon fighting. We did a little guide on it of, you know, how 2-weapon fighting works, and I mentioned this option here. There is a real payoff to, once your symbiotic entity's up, pull out an extra dagger, because that gives you a bonus d6 damage every time you hit it. And there's not a lot of ways to get extra attack on Druid. So this is a way that with, you know, just base Druid, you can get 2d6 damage from symbiotic entity while your Halo of Spores is doing more damage to things around you in some neat fashions. I like it.
Well, you know, we're only at second level. Is this worth taking and, you know, multi-classing into something that gets more attacks down the line?
So the problem is the effects go away if you lose 8 temporary hit points. Right?
Yeah.
Because it scales with your Druid level. So you are somewhat
true.
incentivized to keep going in Druid, so you have
Yeah.
a little bit longer duration on it. If you can find a way, like I could see there being Swarmkeeper Ranger, for example, that dipping into this for 2 levels so that they can get this Halo of Spores activation and you get the extra Druid spells, so you're getting a little bit more robust of a Druid spell suite. And your objective is to play the Skirmisher range, right? Your objective is to use like a pole arm, stay 10 feet back, keep getting your damage from Symbiotic Entity while not actually letting things engage. Maybe you're doing some Sentinel stuff. I could see that coming together to be a pretty cool build. On its own, though, you do have to work for this. You have to figure out what does a base Druid look like with this, and if we're multi-classing, you probably want to be finding pole arms. You would probably want to be finding reach weapons, ways to get this, take less hits while getting the bonus damage. That's going to be the puzzle to work out with Symbiotic Entity.
Or just something where like you say, all right, I'm gonna lose these temporary hit points, but I want to go Nova for 1 round. I just want to charge in there, do 5 attacks with, you know, with the D6 bonus necrotic damage plus anything else. Because this isn't a spell. If I could stack something on there with, you know, Hunter's Mark or something, then yeah, good times.
Yeah, we can stack those on top of the Gloomstalker Ranger, extra attack, giant pile, assassinate kind of thing. We have theorized about all over the place, you know. It is nice that it lasts 10 minutes too, right? So you can just throw this somebody you enter into a dungeon and that you would expect an encounter to come up in the next room or two and probably not have to waste actions on it in combat. It is really devastating that you will have to waste an action on this in combat if you're caught unprepared, though. So, like, you really want the prep round, or this is substantial, like, way worse if you don't get the prep round. It's cool, though. I like it a lot. You do really want both the damage on hit and the damage from the reaction. You want both these things happening over and over again, so Again, neat little cool play pattern. A little bit of a combat puzzle to solve. Good to move on?
Indeed. Yep.
All right, so 6th level, we got Fungal Infestation. At 6th level, your spores gain the ability to infest a corpse and animate it. If a beast or humanoid that is smaller or medium dies within 10 feet of you, you can use your reaction to animate it, causing it to stand up immediately with 1 hit point. That creature uses the zombie stat block of the monster manual and remains animate for 1 hour, after which time it collapses and dies. In combat, the zombie's turn comes immediately after yours. It obeys your medical commands, and the only action it takes is the attack action, making 1 melee attack. So you get what? It just attacks. It does nothing else.
Yeah.
You can use the feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once, and you get all use it back when you finish a long rest. Neat.
Yeah, it is neat. That's it's. I like that it only has 1 hit point, but you're not gonna like try and conserve it for anything because it only lasts an hour anyway.
Yeah, you're just gonna like get it up and make a couple attacks with it. There is
Yeah.
some like real power considerations to say that this is kind of, it's both giving you a crappy extra attack and also absorbing some hits, all for your reaction, right? So you get 3 to 5 of these is what's going to usually look like. Something
Yeah.
goes down, you bring it up. Either it gets to make 2 or 3 attacks and they ignore it, or they don't ignore it and it eats an attack, and then you're pretty happy with that because you used a reaction for one of their hits. And that's not a bad exchange of resources. I am a little disappointed that all this thing can do is attack. It makes it so if you're fighting one big thing, it's stone useless, right? If you're fighting non-beasts and humanoids, it's stone useless. It would be nice if you could, if you could kill a big bad or a medium boss or whatever, a goblin boss, a bugbear or whatever, bring it back with 1 hit point at the end of the fight, and then be able to use it as like a beast of burden for the hour. But
Yeah.
because it can only attack, you're really just going to be like, I don't know, stand in the doorway. Like I can't have you lift things or move things around or take the help action or anything like that. It's just gonna kind of
Or
like
just
stand
like
there and do nothing.
beast. If your horse dies, it'd be awesome to have like this undead horse with like mushrooms growing out of its face and stuff. And that's as a spores druid, that's the look I want.
Yeah, 100%. And it'll look like that. It just won't
It
perform
won't be
like
an undead
that.
horse. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be, well, it will be an undead horse. It'll be a zombie, but
I know, but
another,
you won't be riding around on it, and it'll only last an hour. All I can do is attack.
I mean, like, you could climb on it. I can't see a
Yeah.
reason why you couldn't climb on it and ride around on it. The thing is just like you can't have a dash or anything. That's the nuisance. But them's the breaks. Another quick note, it uses the default zombie stat block, not the zombie version of a stat block of the creature. So if you were to reanimate a goblin, it doesn't retain any goblin stats, it just uses the core zombie stats. If you reanimate a crocodile, it's just a zombie. It uses the humanoid zombie stat block. It doesn't use any crocodile traits, to my understanding. Comments let me know that's not the case, but that's how I reference this and read it.
That's how I read it.
Could be wrong. I, as a DM, 100% involving a lot more interesting traits, because this feature gets way cooler if you care about what you reanimate. This feature gets a lot cooler if you get to keep the land speed of a horse when you reanimate a horse. It becomes a lot cooler whenever you get to keep the land speed or the aquatic traits of a crocodile whenever you bring back a crocodile. It's already narrow enough that
a horse is large, isn't it?
there are some medium ones of ponies and stuff.
Okay.
So there are smaller sized ones you could get, I'm assuming, but just as an example,
Yeah.
I honestly don't think this feature is like that robust and powerful, especially at this tier. You're gonna start finding I just use this anytime I can, because I'm not gonna necessarily be against that many beasts or humanoids all the time. So you want to just, if you can use it, you probably should use it, and that's fine. It also has this,
and it's not that powerful anyway.
No, it's not. There's also the unfortunate bit where this reaction directly competes with Halo of Spores. So if something runs into the 5 feet of you and you kill it with Halo of Spores, you can't use your reaction to bring it up, which is a little bit of a bummer. That's not normally happening, but I figured I'd mention it. There's going to be some competing reactions here you're going to have to juggle. And again, it really makes me wish this was usable out of combat too, because I often want to use Halo Spores at the beginning of combat, and I would want to use this at the end of combat, but say Livy.
Yeah.
10th level, we get Spreading Spores. So at 10th level, you gain the ability to seed an area with deadly spores. As a bonus action, while your symbiotic entity feature is active, you can hurl spores up to 30 feet away, where they swirl in a 10-foot cube for 1 minute. The spores disappear early if you use this feature again, if you dismiss them as a bonus action, or if your symbiotic entity feature is no longer active. Whenever a creature moves into the cube or starts its turn there, that creature takes your Halo of Spores damage unless it succeeds on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. The creature can take this damage no more than once per turn. While the cube persists, you can't use your Halo of Spores reaction. The idea being, you place the area down, And now that's where the reaction automatically occurs, no reaction cost to you anymore. Because the things move into it, they take the damage.
This, I don't know. I'm not super excited by this.
Me neither.
It's neat, but
it's neat. And I think that's the general takeaway I have for most of the subclasses. It's neat. There's a lot of ideas happening here that are kind of cool. You have to remember we're also stable to a full caster, right? We're getting all the bells and whistles that come with plant growths and stuff. We're getting the full caster experience of 5-hour-long concentration effects and everything else you could want under the sun. It's just this particular one. You have to set up the symbiotic entity first, and then you can set it out. And you've up to this point needed to be close to things, so I would expect your build to kind of reflect that. So the utility of now being able to put it somewhere remote doesn't seem that high to me. Like, I don't know how often I'm going to want that if my entire play pattern up to this point has been getting within the 10 feet so I can get my feature working,
And it's not, and if I'm reading this correctly, you can't even move it around after that. You just throw it over there and it hangs out there for a minute. So if one guy enters the spores, they're going to take a D8 and say, hey, everybody, don't go over here. And,
So the way that I'm reading this is the spores disappear early if you use this feature again. That makes me inclined to think you can use the feature spreading spores again to basically throw a new batch from your location to a next location. That's how I read that.
Okay, so the whole time you've got your symbiotic entity going, you can keep casting this over and over again?
Yeah, the idea is as you throw a new one, the old one disappears. So as a bonus action on the turn after, you put it somewhere. And then on a subsequent turn, you can make that one disappear and throw a new one to a different location.
All right, well, that's something.
Yeah. I do think, there'll be a real world where you could, this is very seems skirmisher to me. I like this with a ranger multi-class because you could just, throw this down on somebody that they're going to have to move out of it while you're moving backwards, and they just keep taking the damage over and over again as they're moving backwards at you as you keep throwing this down. That could be a cute little event that happens. Now, I don't see a lot of moments where there's just 6 monsters sprinting at a ranger. Normally there's other things happening. Normally there's other characters that are being attacked and whatnot. So that isn't going to be that likely of a play pattern, I don't think. But it's worth mentioning. I think it's a thing you could try to do with this that could be kind of cool. Again, it plays into that Polearm Master Sentinel thing, right? Where you're keeping things back with your Sentinel and moving, throwing down the Halo Spores, keeping that reaction damage up. That could be some cool build direction for this that I think is unique. I don't know if it's well supported, but it's unique, and I like unique things in this game.
Sure.
We end on Fungal Body. At 14th level, the fungal spores in your body alter you. You can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned, and any crit against you counts as a normal hit instead unless you're incapacitated. That's a great list. That's a fantastic little list of things that no longer matter to you. The non-crits is also, just great. You're just oh, so I don't randomly lose all my 10 HP anymore to someone critting me for 60 damage. I will take at most 30 from that claw attack. That means these spores stay up. That's useful. That's handy.
Sure.
And the best part about this feature is it's simple whenever you're getting into the 7th, 8th, 9th level spell slot territory. So I'm not even that bummed out to get something this boring whenever you're also getting all the full caster bells and whistles in the upper tiers that you're expected to get,
Or, or because it's, you say boring, but you preface that with really useful.
Yeah, I think crits can happen in any encounter. And blinded, frightened, deafened, and poison encompass a decent chunk of encounters. So this is never a dead feature, and it will, in many encounters, be quite impactful. That's a great kind of resistance to get. I think this is getting a lot closer to the mark of what I want a defensive feature to be, where we've seen, resistance to fire damage, or immunity to necrotic damage, or whatever, those features being just trash on their own because one immunity type isn't enough. This gives you enough where at level 14 you will feel like it is an actual unique meaningful buff to your character sheet over the guy that's just resistant to, cold damage. For their 14th level feature. This definitely feels like an updated version of that.
Yeah, I'm especially excited about the frightened. That's that can be debilitating.
Yeah, and you just don't care anymore.
Yep.
When you put it all together, I think the secret biggest feature this has actually is Animate Dead. Just Animate Dead is a feature in and of itself. It's a whole little mini game, lets you cobble together corpses and bring up your own little army. Symbiotic entity, while you're surrounded by 6 zombies or 6 skeletons, more likely, there's things that are going to have a hard time reaching you, and you can kind of like play the close ranged undead commander with this option, kind of, right? Where you have your symbiotic entity down, you have your little posse of undead around you, and you're going around using them to block hits so that you can maintain a higher duration on your symbiotic entity, and then you're just like firing off reactions to deal damage to those things, and then you have your concentration still. You have your full actions ready to go for other spellcasting to
That's
the rest of
true.
the Druid battery if you want to, right? This plays really
Yeah.
well with plant growth because skeletons, they just didn't want to be able to pepper things for a long time. Throwing down a plant growth, standing near the edge of it, and just being like, yeah, here's some damage as I walk backwards. Or like you throw the
And
spores in
here's
the
some
middle of the plant
spores.
growths.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can just keep things locked down in a space, hail of arrows at them while they're just struggling to get through the high difficult terrain. It's a neat, a lot of little elements of Druid come in to give you some interesting direction for this. In the vacuum, I'm not super impressed with any of the features, I don't think. I don't think any of these features are like jumping out to me as super powerful, crazy build defining warping features. But they all have a lot of use cases. They all have a lot of neat, interesting ideas in them. And I think if you're the kind of person that loves delving into the Druid spell list, you want to go through all the different features available to you, you want to really tweak and tinker with a character to get a really unique look, I think you can make 12 different Spores Druids that all play and look wildly different with
Yeah.
just the features listed. And that makes this subclass an easy A to me. It's not hyper powerful, but it is unique. None of the features are dead. You'll have cool things to do with all of them. It fulfills the fantasy satisfyingly. It gets a great bonus spell list. I think this is a home run of a Druid option.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun, a lot of flavor. I'm glad it exists. This is
Yeah, me
not
too.
one I would have thought of on my own.
It's a really unique take for like, well, how do we make Druids different? What if there's a mushroom Druid? All right, let's expand on that. What do mushrooms do? Well, they grow on corpses. And there we go. Now we
Yeah.
have the Spores Druid.
Well, I'll go a step further. It's not one I would have thought of on my own, but it is one when I see it, I instantly get a picture in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of the grungy mushroom man that lives in a cave and, has got the mushroom fungus hat and has got mushrooms growing in his beard and is
Yes.
just like the kindest little old guy you've ever met that got 12 different poultices on his belt, but it smells terrible and is covered in dirt. That's the kind of archetype I really get out of this, which is cool.
Yeah.
You can
Yep.
also go a lot darker with it if you want. You can also just be like undead overlord that's just rot and decay and Golgari kind of stuff from magic settings. Like, oh yeah, you can do all kinds of cool stuff with this.
Yeah. Or like hot hippie chick
Yeah.
who probably still
Also,
smells bad.
also is a really fun character archetype you can play with this. That's a really I love that idea a lot. It's just like the 80s hippie chick from the one Tarantino movie, one Night in Hollywood or something like that. Yeah, I'm envisioning that kind could absolutely work here.
All right. Well, that was Circle of Spores. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Sure we've got some Spores fans in the comments. Let us know your opinions down there and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.